Handog ng Radyo Pilipinas World Service ang programang Global na Tayo. Pag-uusapan, hihimayin, aalamin ang mga isyung pinag-uusapan ng bayan at dadalhin sa pandaigdigang plataforma. Global na Tayo, talakayang hindi lang pambansa, bagkus pang global community pa. Global na Tayo, dito sa Radyo Pilipinas World Service, ang online digital station ng Pilipino saan man sa mundo. Tara na, Global na Tayo!
Muli po isang mapagpalang pagbati ngayong araw na ito ng Huwebes, araw at oras po dito sa Pilipinas, sa inyong inang bayan. Ito po ang programang Global na Tayo at ako po inyong lingkod, Ray Sampang. Muli po, kami po ay nag-aanyaya sa inyo dito sa ating himpilang ito, Radyo Pilipinas World Service, ang online digital platform ng Presidential Broadcast Service. Kasama pa rin po namin maglilingkod sa inyo ngayong araw na ito, mula po sa ating engineering side, of course, nandiyan pa rin si Mr. Milo Junela. Sa ating Wirecast, of course, nandiyan pa rin si Hero. And ang ating live audio streaming, of course, hawak naman ng ating kasamang si Mr. Jerome Toledo. And of course, ang ating executive producer for today, si Miss Stephanie Vicente. Meron pala tayong panauhin ngayong araw na ito. And hopefully, makakasama na natin siya sa ating himpilan. Si Justin. Ayan, okay. Ang ating mga bagong hopefully maging kasama na ni Hero sa kanyang Wirecast operations. Alright? Kami po ay inyong nasusubaybayan sa pamamagitan ng ating Facebook Broadcast Live. Sa inyo pong Facebook browser, type lamang Radyo Pilipinas World Service. Gayun rin sa ating YouTube channel. Sa inyong YouTube browser, type lamang Radyo Pilipinas World Service. And of course, sa ating on-time, real-time, live audio streaming. I-type nyo lang, i-download nyo lamang po ang ating eBox PBS Radio app. E as in Echo, B as in Victory, O as in October, X as in Xerox. Kung kayo ay merong cellphone na smartphone, punta lang po kayo sa Google Play. Kung kayo naman ay merong iPhone, punta lang po kayo sa App Store. At sa mga browser na yan, i-type nyo lang eBox PBS Receiver. Ulitin ko, E as in Elephant, V as in Victory, O as in October, X as in Xerox. At pag na-download nyo na po yan, i-tap nyo lang yung icon at makikita nyo na po ang mga tile icon ng mga himpilan ng Presidential Broadcast Service. Kabilang na po dyan ang Radyo Pilipinas World Service. I-tap nyo lamang po yan at mapapakinggan nyo na ang ating mga programa dito. Simula alas 7 ng umaga hanggang sa susunod na araw, alas 2 hanggang alas 3 na madaling araw. Ganun po ang haba ng ating broadcast upang kami po ay mas lalo makapaglingkod sa inyo, sa ating mga overseas Filipino workers, sa ating mga Filipino diaspora, sa Filipinos living and working abroad. Anumang oras po kayo nararating ng ating programa. Umaga man, tanghali, hapon o gabi. Ayan. Pati sa ating mga Filipino seafarers. So please, like and follow ang ating pong Facebook broadcast page, Radyo Pilipinas World Service. Subscribe sa ating YouTube channel, Radyo Pilipinas World Service. At i-download ang ating eBox PBS Radio Receiver para mapakinggan ang ating mga programa dito sa Radyo Pilipinas World Service. Alright, marami po tayong pag-uusapan ngayong araw na ito. At doon sa mga hindi po nagkaroon ng pagkakataon na mapakinggan ang naging talumpati ni Pangulong Ferdinand Marcos Jr. Para sa kanyang foreign policy statements na ginanap sa New Delhi, India. Bahagi po ito ng kanyang official state visit sa bansang India. Nagkaroon po kasi siya ng pagkakataong maihayag ang foreign policy direction ng kanyang administrasyon diyan po sa India. Kung hindi nyo po napakinggan yan at hindi napanood, later on amin pong i-re-air ulit ang naging statement ng Pangulo, kanyang naging speech diyan po sa New Delhi, India, kung saan inilahad niya ang foreign policy direction ng kanyang administrasyon. Pero bago tayo dumako dyan, meron tayong maganda pang balita rito. Kung may magandang balita sa India, meron din naman magandang balita mula naman sa bansang South Korea. Sapagkat ito pong bansang South Korea ay nag-donate ng 2,000 metric tons ng bigas. 2,000 metric tons ng bigas at itinan-over na po ito ng bansang Korea, Republic of Korea, sa Philippine government nito pong nakalipas na araw, Wednesday. Ito po ay upang matulungan ang ating bansa na mapaghandaan palalo ang mga disaster calamities dito sa bansa natin tulad ng mga nagdaang bagyo at habagat. Ito po ay bahagi na rin ng tulong nila para masuportahan ang peace efforts dyan po sa may bahagi ng Mindanao at masuportahan na rin ito tinatawag na long-term food security ng Pilipinas sa likod ng mga nararanasan nating climate change. Kasama po sa nasabing turnover ceremonies dito ay ang Department of Social Welfare and Development, National Resources Operations Center sa Pasay City, gayon rin ang kanilang South Korean Ambassador Lee Sang-hwa, kung saan kanyang binigyang halaga na ito pong kahalagahan ng bigas na kanilang donate. Ito po ay, para sa kanila ay para sa kanila ito ay mahigit sa donasyon. Mahigit pa ang simbolo ng kanilang 2,000 metric tons na donasyon. Hindi daw po ito donasyon, kundi isa itong pagpapakita ng pagkakaibigan at solidarity sa pagitan ng South Korea at ng Pilipinas. Ayan. Alright, so thank you very much sa South Korean Republic of South Korea sa kanilang 2,000 metric tons na donation na bigas para sa Pilipinas. Pero ulitin ko, sabi nga po ng South Korean government, this is not just a mere donation. It is an expression of solidarity and friendship between the Philippines and Republic of South Korea. Kung may maganda naman tayong balita, medyo meron naman tayong hindi magandang balita dito dahil kinonfirma na po ng Department of Foreign Affairs. Kinonfirma na po ng Department of Foreign Affairs na isang turistang Pilipino ang nasawi sa isang mishap o aksidente sa Hong Kong. Kinonfirma na po ng Department of Foreign Affairs yan, isang Filipino tourist na po ang nasawi sa Hong Kong. Nasagasaan ng taxi. At itong kababayan nating Filipino tourist ay 35 years old. Filipino tourist. Sa labas po ang nangyari po yung aksidente sa labas ng Chu Wen West Hotel sa Hong Kong nung Martes. Sa isang pahayag, sinabi ng Department of Foreign Affairs na kinonfirma ng ating Consulate General ng Pilipinas sa Hong Kong na namatay itong kababayan natin pero sa isang vehicular accident dahil sa taxi, sa isang taxi driver na minamaneho ng isang Hong Kong national. Ayan, okay. Pero siyempre itong ating Department of Foreign Affairs ay ginagawa naman po lahat ng mga dapat na gawing hakbang upang mapanagot itong Hong Kong national na ito na isang taxi driver sa nangyaring aksidente na ikinasawi ng ating kababayan, 35-year-old Filipino tourist na nasa Hong Kong lang. Ang masakit dito, ayon pa nga doon po sa incident report, parang kalalabas lang nito ng hotel, may dala pang luggage at bigla na lamang itong naararo o nabangga nitong taxi na ito na minamaneho. Okay? So, huwag po kayo mag-alala, patuloy po natin patuloy po nating tututukan at hihingan natin ng update ang Department of Foreign Affairs as we go along tungkol dito sa kalalagayan ng labi ng ating kababayang ito na nasawi sa Hong Kong, isang Filipino tourist na nasawi dahil nasagasaan ng isang taxi na minamaneho ng isang Hong Kong national. Alright, okay. Sa puntong ito, tulad po na nabanggit namin sa inyo, ating muling i-re-air ang naging talumpati ni Pangulong Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. sa New Delhi, India, kung saan pinarating niya ang foreign policy direction ng bansa, lalo na sa ilalim ng kanyang administrasyon. Narito po ang naging pahayag ng Pangulong Marcos Jr.
Chairman Sunjoy Joshi, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. The First Lady and I are elated to be visiting this great country, a close friend and vital partner of the Philippines, upon the gracious invitation of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. As President of the Philippines, Asia's oldest republic, it is indeed an honor to visit the world's largest democracy. Before I proceed, allow me to express my deepest sympathy to the Indian nation, especially to those bereaved who lost loved ones in the tragic flash floods in Uttarakhand yesterday. Over the past 2 days, I paid my respects to the Mahatma, father of this nation, whose powerful ideas continue to resonate the world over and continue to guide our lives. I had insightful discussions with your president and, of course, with Prime Minister Modi and other eminent officials. I reiterated to them our abiding support and solidarity in confronting terrorism and our grief over innocent lives lost to this scourge. We discussed our cooperation in defense and security, and more importantly, we charted the direction of our future-looking engagement. I explored with the captains of Indian businesses a path towards mutual growth in what is, by many measures, still very much a blue ocean of opportunities between the Philippines and India. Through the Indian media, I engaged in conversation with the broader public on their perceptions and queries on the rising prominence and relevance of our ties. From tomorrow, our sojourn takes us to India's Garden City and the Silicon Valley of Bengaluru to further our economic agenda. This opportunity to share further reflections is the most fitting way to conclude the Delhi leg of this visit. On the centuries-old and enduring friendship of the Philippines and the Indian peoples, the state of our Indo-Pacific region, and its complex challenges and uncertainties against which we must, as nations and as partners, propel forward. I therefore wholeheartedly thank Chair Joshi and ORF for hosting us for this gathering this evening. Friends, this state visit is occasioned by our commemoration of 75 years of diplomatic relations. Yet, the ties that bind our two nations extend much further back in time. Our histories are intertwined. Southeast Asia is India's next door neighbor, but the Philippine archipelago lies at its far end, bordering on the Pacific. And yet, our civilizations bridge this chasm. Despite this distance, the Philippines archipelago was touched by the Indosphere. More than artifacts, this influence was of the intangible kind, ideas that seeped into our worldview. A Maranao version of the Ramayana called the Maharaja Lawana, and Sanskrit-derived words that to this day roll off Filipino tongues. The British occupation of Manila lasted all but 18 months. But that expedition's Madras infantrymen stayed behind. They are progenitors of a vibrant circle of Filipino-Indian families in Metro Manila's eastern reaches. And speaking of linguistic influences, my father always used to sum up the history or describe the history of the Filipino people in one word: tadhana, Filipino for history or destiny. Auspiciously, it is believed to be related, if not rooted, in the Sanskrit sandhana, a term that denotes both journey and unity. Both sandhana and tadhana, a shared journey and destiny, capture the story of the friendship between our two countries. We see this in our similar experiences as peoples that went through colonial subjugation and through tenacious struggles won independence. It was there when Philippines and India, at the very infancy of our statehoods, became two of only 3 Asian nations in San Francisco that labored to establish the United Nations. This journey and vision imbued the pivotal conferences in New Delhi in 1947 and Baguio in 1950 to forge our Pan-Asian solidarity. And 5 years later, we converged in Bandung to define the rallying creed of the global South. The Cold War would see our strategic outlooks diverge as we acted on our respective realities and security environments. The Philippines found security in alliances, while India chose the path of non-alignment. In that extended period, we embarked on our parallel and respective paths towards attaining our national aspirations and cultivating our international standing. Today, in a far different and indisputably multimodal world, our respective journeys converge once again. We remain bastions of democracy, but this time we are also amongst the most ascendant economies. The Philippines is on the cusp of upper middle income status, attainable as early as next year. India, of course, can be proud of your spectacular rise under the leadership of Prime Minister Modi and the intellectual gravitas, innate talent, and industry of Indian people, rising to become the world's fourth largest economy and the country wielding enormous global influence. As an emerging middle power, the Philippines is likewise determined to be a force for good. What has this meant for our ties? A reconvergence, one of such proportions that the Philippines and India are interacting, collaborating at levels and scopes not seen before. Since 2023, our trade has breached and consistently exceeded the $3 billion mark. Our functional and development cooperation has turned multifaceted, spanning health, tourism, agriculture, financial technology, science and technology, education, maritime security, even space. We now reinforce each other's strengths very concretely by our defense cooperation, of which the BrahMos project is by far the largest. But this intensification is not confined to supporting bilateral aspirations. Our mutually supportive approaches also find expression in cooperation on shared geopolitical and geoeconomic challenges. It is the same reconvergence and alignment of interest that led Prime Minister Modi and me to Hyderabad House yesterday to inaugurate the Philippines-India Strategic Partnership. There may be an impression in some circles that strategic partnerships have become common currency in international diplomacy and national toolkits. Not so for the Philippines. We approach the forging of such relationships with great deliberation, less of caution, but more of adherence to a very high standard. The standards that uphold mutual and strategic trust, a common cause, a clear alignment of interests, and indeed a track record of being responsible players in the international arena and the global commons. Well, India has emerged as one of the countries with the Philippines, which the Philippines finds these sterling qualities. Our strategic partnership with India is only our fifth such partnership. After Japan, Vietnam, Australia, and the Republic of Korea, sea lines of communications crisscross the Indian Ocean. Maritime trade to and from the Far East and the Pacific through the Indian Ocean has and continues to underpin our prosperity and our people's aspirations for the last centuries. Safe navigation and security are important, especially for Filipino and Indian seafarers who are on almost every ship plying these historic and strategic routes. I again thank the Indian people and the brave men and women of the Navy, of your Navy through Prime Minister Modi, for the kind rescue and succor of our nationals in 2024, after they were attacked by Houthi rebels. We recognize India's influence and first responder role in this critical area. We welcome our new strategic partner, India, then a crown jewel for an empire, and now the key to unlock a free and open Indo-Pacific. As two of Asia's biggest democracies with a deep historical linkage, the Philippines and India should transform our natural friendship into a robust and modern partnership. This is but the natural progression of things. Just yesterday, a flotilla of 3 ships from India's Eastern Naval Command, including the guided missile destroyer INS Delhi, accompanied by tankers INS Shakti and corvette INS Kiltan, joined 2 frigates from the Philippines, BRP Miguel Malvar and BRP Jose Rizal, and completed their first ever maritime cooperative activities in the South China Sea and in the West Philippine Sea. It attests to our shared determination to work for the greater good in a way that protects our trade and our prosperity, our freedoms, and the heritage for future generations. Our relations with India form part of a larger lattice work of partnerships, a formal alliance, strategic partnership, a minilateral groupings that we have built in recent years with and amongst the states that share specific interests. All these build into pillars that support the architecture of regional stability and guarantee the preservation of prosperity. They reflect the value that we put in investing in diplomacy, even as we steadily ramp up and modernize our defense capabilities, undergirded by our comprehensive archipelagic defense concept to project our forces into areas where we must, by constitutional duty and legal right, and we must protect our interests and preserve our patrimony. These we all pursue, even as we remain true to our commitment to ASEAN, to its centrality, its convening power, and proven positive impact in shaping regional peace and prosperity for close to 6 decades now. India takes a similar, albeit uniquely and necessarily Indian approach, with its pragmatism and pursuit of optimization of relationships via multi-aligned, multi-vector policies in its foreign relations. Indeed, our strategic partnership reflects the growing convergence of our long-term interests in the context of the historic shifts that will inform the ebb and flow of this century. In this 10th year of India's impactful East policy that grew out of the Look East policy, the Philippines has also turned its gaze towards India, and our visions is met. Friends, at the United Nations in 2022, I defined the transcendent challenges facing the global community: widening geopolitical polarities that threaten our hard-won peace, unresolved inequities and inequalities, powerful technologies with the power to transform, but also with the danger of destabilizing our political and social order, and the existential threat of climate change. Despite resounding calls, global unity to address these challenges have, unfortunately, become even more elusive. In the 3 years since then, geopolitical developments have exerted only greater pressure upon the very structures and norms designed to prevent and to resolve conflicts, facilitate trade-driven growth and economic integration, or urge forward collective global action. We see all these in our very own shared neighborhood of the Indo-Pacific, the locus of our hopes, growth, and very existence. In Singapore last year, I described the realities impinging upon the region's present and future. A multipolar world being shaped by the experiences, aspirations, and agency of nations, and challenged by attempts to undermine prevailing international norms. Within this multipolar world, the impact of continuing strategic competition amongst the great powers, which permeates the evolving regional landscape and creates dilemmas that weigh on the strategic choices of regional states. The abiding relevance of ASEAN in holding the center amidst this fluidity, even as ASEAN's centrality and cohesion are under siege. The role of bridge builder nations in forging decisive multilateral actions and solutions, even as geopolitics seeps into the infrastructure of global governance. The vital importance of securing and keeping global commons free, open, and accessible for the rightful benefit of everyone. The urgent need for action on climate change, whose impact and worsening threat are very much felt by our region. And finally, the world and our region must be able to seize maximum gains from the transformative power of advanced technologies while paying due attention to their disruptive potential. Ladies and gentlemen, the responses to these realities are equally manifold. Of the many potent prescriptions, the Philippines has long stressed shoring up the rules-based order to be crucial, and this for 4 reasons. First, it is the best guarantee for the sovereign equality of all states, regardless of size. Secondly, the predictability and stability that it engenders provides an enabling environment for all states to pursue their respective aspirations. Third, it provides a credible, legal regime that guarantees just and equitable access by all states to the global commons and to all frontiers that could lead to sustainable development. Fourth, it enables states to galvanize effective international action to confront challenges that any single nation could not successfully manage on its own. Yet some of our fellow defenders of the international system that we built together in 1945 have since shifted their priorities, turning more inward and prioritizing urgent national concerns, at times at the expense of the principles we used to champion collectively. Meanwhile, other powers are seeking to take advantage of this shift. Unfortunately, such narratives at times dominate, obscuring the international community's judgment. For instance, the complex issue of competing claims in the South China Sea has for years been unfortunately and simplistically reduced to the South China Sea disputes, as if claims were all equal. They are not. The assertions of literal states have to pass the test of conformity with international law, particularly the UNCLOS and definitive binding interpretations such as the 2016 arbitral award. Such misinformation or inaccurate narratives distract us from calling out illegal and unlawful actions for what they are, violations of international law. Indeed, there are those who sometimes justify such provocations under the pretext of geopolitics. Just as disconcertingly, there are those who seek to discredit international legal procedures and dismiss binding rulings to cloak opaque claims with a semblance of legitimacy. It has thus become the responsibility for all stakeholders, including the Philippines and India, to play a more active role in upholding, in defending, and in preserving our rules-based order. The Indian vision for multipolarity, which resonates with the Philippines, that emphasis on strategic agency, is no longer just an aspiration. It is an exigency. These are the moorings upon which we must anchor our strategic partnership going forward. Through our strategic partnership, the Philippines and India must assert the clarity of international law. As co-architects of the rules-based international order, we have a solid foundation on which we can build. We Filipinos are proud of our efforts to promote the rule of law, including through the 1982 Manila Declaration and the peaceful settlement of disputes. We also find inspiration in India's contributions, example, and its own adherence to the law. For a country with rapidly growing power and influence, India has submitted to the judgment of international tribunals on matters concerning maritime disputes, a model of how a responsible major power and a good neighbor should behave. We see this same responsibility and sincerity in India's Mahasagar vision, mutual and holistic advancement for security and growth across regions, on the basis of trust, transparency, and genuine respect for the rights and interests of all nations in the Indian Ocean region. The Philippines has first-hand experience of this. When our distressed seafarers sailing through the dangerous waters of the Red Sea found safety and humanity in the rescue and aid of the U.S. Navy, of the Indian Navy. Thus, when Prime Minister Modi assures the world that India intends to be Vishwa Bandhu, a friend to the world, we Filipinos feel his and the Indian people's sincerity. So looking ahead, the Philippines and India must continue to work to strengthen the resilience of our world community. Our diplomatic initiatives must buttress the current structures of global governance. These structures must withstand geopolitical shocks, remaining credible as providers of global goods and meaningful venues for nations to find common ground. At the regional level, this means continued centrality of ASEAN in the regional architecture and active engagement by all stakeholders, including India, and in ASEAN-led mechanisms. This also means meaningful linkages between the efforts of ASEAN member states and those of the Indian Ocean region, including collaborating on synergies between the ASEAN Outlook on the Indo-Pacific and the Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative. In the broader international arena, this entails an even more active leadership by middle powers that have the capacity to reach across political and ideological lines, forge genuine consensus, and lead credible efforts towards decisive multilateral solutions. Our work to strengthen the multilateral system must ensure that the so-called major countries do not exert undue influence. It should lead to meaningful reforms in the United Nations and the Security Council itself towards inclusivity, equity, and justice. Ladies and gentlemen, earlier I touched upon how the Philippines, as do many other countries, has in its folk literature a version of the Ramayana. This attests to the universal and lasting relevance of this revered and ancient epic from these lands, that it transcends time, distance, and culture. Perhaps this appeal derives from the Ramayana's portrayal not just of friendship and of loyalty, but of such bonds being in the service of righteousness, truth, and of justice. Our Indo-Pacific home is now the world's fastest growing economic hub and the foremost driver of global growth. But the promise it holds for all of us collectively and our respective nations will not be given, but it must be secured. It behooves all of us as individual nations, as agents acting in concert with others, be it in the context of strategic partnerships, formal alliances, or any other framework, to be invested in an Indo-Pacific that is free, open, and firmly undergirded by a rules-based order. True to our common destiny, Tadhana, and in the spirit of Sadhana, our bonds and common journey, never has the Philippines and India been better positioned as now to put our ties in the service of both our peoples, as well as our larger region's future. Prime Minister Modi, with whom I met yesterday, brilliantly described the Philippines and India as friends by choice, but partners by destiny. These words capture the sense of an inevitable friendship, anchored in a meeting of purpose for our nations and a shared journey for our peoples. With our strategic partnership, we unfurl the sails and steer our hopes and dreams through challenging tides. Our vision for a free, open, and inclusive Indo-Pacific is our compass. Our commitment to international law is our ballast. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. It has been a great
Handog ng Radyo Pilipinas World Service ang programang Global na Tayo. Pag-uusapan, hihimayin, aalamin ang mga isyung pinag-uusapan ng bayan at dadalhin sa pandaigdigang plataforma. Global na Tayo, talakayang hindi lang pambansa, bagkus pang global community pa. Global na Tayo, dito sa Radyo Pilipinas World Service, ang online digital station ng Pilipino saan man sa mundo. Tara na, Global na Tayo.